we finish the discussion, we will have a little lunch break together, the same room, and that wonderful food. We're going to enjoy them together. Once we get back to this room, we'll be taking time talking about the better learning outcome. How could we achieve that? I think all ladies and gentlemen in this room has different answer to that topic, to the way we can improve learning outcomes. So we will be discussing about improving how we improve the quality um, of um, of the education. So we have quality assurance, we have the monitoring of teaching and learning. So we also include improving evaluation systems into it as well. So that will be the first topic in the afternoon. And right after that, ladies and gentlemen, something nice, and I love that this kind of session a lot. It's gonna be the summary. So you're gonna hear, you might have your own version of summary, that for sure. Everyone has it. But you're gonna be having a chance to hear a different perspective from two speakers who will be helping us presenting their own version of summary. So we're gonna hear about the summary of the conference from two great honorable speakers and guest speaker today. And right after, we're going to conclude this conference together with conference declaration. So we'll be hearing the suggestions, we'll be hearing the issues to together push forward educational equality and promote media and publications together. So that's the whole rough picture of what will be happening today. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, may I take this very opportunity to invite our honorable moderator for the very first session onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ati Saiji, Chief of Education at UNICEF Thailand. Please welcome.
Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to kickstart today, that's day 2 and also the final day, with a plenary session on lifelong learning systems and diverse stakeholders. And just to reiterate, I'm Arti. I work with UNICEF Thailand, and I'll be moderating the session today. I would like you to join me in welcoming our participants. Dawn Adrian, could you please come to the stage, from the SDG Academy and the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network. We have Jodi Prat-Tuka from the ILO, the International Labour Organization based in Thailand. We have Jose De Jesus from the Civil Society Education Partnership in Timor-Leste. And we have Renu Seth from Pratham Foundation, India. If you could all please join me on the stage, please. Thank you. So just to give a very brief introduction to them, but they will do better justice to who they are and why they're here. I will not take on the task. But all of them represent the diversity of institutional actors who are involved in the lifelong learning ecosystem. So it ranges from multilateral organizations like the ILO. It looks at global knowledge networks like the SDG Academy, and it also looks at civil society actors from a country as vast and populous as India, and also Timor-Leste, which is one of the very new countries, democratic and young, to speak about the experience of lifelong learning systems at the country level. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Dawn to kickstart the panel for us. And she's going to speak about how lifelong learning opportunities which are offered by the SDG Academy to better understand the SDGs, understand the concept of sustainability, can help improve knowledge and also translate that knowledge to advocacy and action. So Dawn, the floor is yours.
I'm not the tallest person in the room. I'm thinking this is the quickest. Okay, wonderful. Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Dawn. I think that was a wonderful introduction to me. Yes, so I'm an education manager at the SDG Academy, which is the education flagship initiative at the UN SDSN. So that's me, and I'm based out of KL, Malaysia. That's where I flew from. Oop, is this the button? Okay, so just really quickly, I think before I introduce you and SDSN, and I'm sure you've spoken about this yesterday, and it was beautifully recapped this morning. Historically, especially in the development context, adult learning has focused a lot on raising rates of literacy and numeracy skills, or it's a focus on hard skills, training for employment, trying to minimize the skill gap, especially when we're feeding towards economic and labor forces. I think what we've observed over the years is that the need to shift towards lifelong learning is more than that, and it's a testament to the needs of our future. So there's a growing emphasis on and demand for green skills or skills needed for a sustainable future. And what I believe is transformative to lifelong learning is accessibility. So I'm really excited to talk to you about how we at SDSN, at SDG Academy, brings together skills needed for a sustainable future and the accessibility through digital platforms. So a really quick introduction to UNSDSN, or United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. We are an international nonprofit that was created in 2012 under the auspices of the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. And as of 2024, SDSN has over 2,000 members in over 57 networks, with our offices based in New York, Paris, and KL. And our mandate is to bring together these 2,000 networks of experts from around the world, both academic and non-academic institutions. It is also a place where I like to think we're a research think tank. So a lot of policy analysis, if you see a lot of the SDR, it comes out of us. And lastly, SDG Academy. So the SDG Academy is the flagship education initiative out of SDSN, and our mandate is promoting transformative education through the creation and curation of high-quality content on sustainable development. It's sharing of innovative pedagogies and training models, and it provides an open access to learning resources to a global audience. Now, I'm just saying a lot of things here, but what does that actually look like? So we have two main platforms, which is our massive open online courses, or MOOCs. We now have 51 MOOCs that look at sustainable development, and this is based on edX, which is very similar to Coursera, very similar to LinkedIn Learning. And how I like to think about our work is that we cater for the professionals and learners that fall in between, who are ready to learn about the SDGs, whether it's their first time being introduced to it or they're accelerating their career path. And I'll go into both of these. Okay, give me a second. So interdisciplinary anchors our work, especially when you're dealing with the UN SDGs. Even though there's 17, as you know, there's over 200 targets, and that's a lot of content to look at. And you're required to think about tackling these issues of our current world and thinking about how it all interacts. How does climate change affect healthcare access? How do sustainable cities promote peace and justice? And the way I like to think about SDG Academy is that we bring it together to make it accessible to learners to understand solutions around it. And interdisciplinary requires diversity. So the core of our work rests in these full-length courses, or as I said, MOOCs, or massive open online courses. It's hosted out of edX. And these are free, full-length courses related to the SDGs, designed to align with the academic calendar. So our courses start running from September onwards. And a lot of the time, we have universities, professors, and even working professionals use our materials to support an entire semester of teaching, or even in workshops used at work. And I'll show an example of these later. And these courses are built with experts from around the world, such as UNESCO, Columbia University, ILO, the Queensland University of Technology, and a lot more. And I'll also get into the diversity of our partners later. I am missing a slide here, which I wish I had put in, but a lot of our learners that take up our courses, they do have bachelor's degrees, and a lot of them actually also have professional degrees. So this is like more of accelerating their career path. When we ask them, because we have a post-course survey, a lot of them are using it to accelerate their careers because they're somewhat trying to bridge wherever they're in, whatever industry they're in, with sustainability. And so it's a lot about upskilling themselves for that sustainable future. And as it goes with lifelong learning, accessibility is a vital component of lifelong learning. So at the SDG Academy, we actually make these videos free as well. So these courses are available on our digital library with video lectures, case studies, partner project spotlights, and other content on sustainable development. So now we have over 2,000 video lectures and case studies. I'd also like to take this opportunity to showcase the ways our work has also been integrated into professional development. So UN SDSN Asia's office is actually hosted out of Sunway University in KL, and we teamed up with the Sunway Education Group to create a Campus with a Conscience team, where we launched an online SDG education course campus-wide in partnership with us, the SDG Academy, to drive sustainability efforts. Now, this course was designed to strengthen staff and student foundational skills on the SDGs. So they all take it, whether you're beginning, we have to take it annually, right when you begin working, and if you're a student, within the first semester that you're enrolled in. So we like to think we're a very sustainable campus there. We also offer more traditional forms of lifelong learning, which I'm sure we've probably seen a master's program somewhere, especially an online one. And I'm starting to see a lot of increase in uptakes on online masters. And so this goes beyond professional certificates and degrees. So at the SDG Academy, we currently partner with 2 universities globally to offer an online master's program in sustainable development. We are currently working with the University College of Dublin and also Sunway University. So as well, this is all about upskilling and providing tools, skills, and knowledge to build a fulfilling and challenging career, tackling the world's biggest issues like climate change. But if you're not entirely ready to take on a full-time master's just yet, we also offered a foundational program. And this allows you 2 different pathways, and it's all to work towards building academic credit towards that master's degree. So again, it's all about accessibility and reaching audiences who are not quite ready, who are ready, who have already attained something, and I really like the work that we do because of this. So this is just how you can get more involved with this. We are almost everywhere on most platforms. So even a quick Google search on SDG Academy, UNSDSN, you can find us. But I do now want to pivot to talking about the diversity of the stakeholders that we work with. A lot of the courses that we do are built in partnerships with academic institutions and private sectors and other UN agencies that help us develop these comprehensive lifelong learning courses. And beyond this, we work with a lot of technical and logistical experts within edX and outside within our network to deliver this quality content to our learners. And within UN SDSN, our expertise is not built without the consultation and support of government officials as well. One of our leading projects with UNESCO, which is Mission 4.7, which is about education for sustainable development, we work very closely with the Ministry of Education Malaysia to support the continuous professional development, the upskilling and reskilling of local teachers in Malaysia. We also partner with stakeholders to host large-scale conferences such as these, this year, we managed to host the Education for Sustainable Development for 2030 regional meeting in Malaysia, and I do see some familiar faces from that conference as well, so welcome. And to return us to this previous slide, how I like to think about our work and the world of the SDGs and even sustainable development as a whole, it cannot be brought to our students without the diversity of the experts that we work with, or that even beginning to think about teaching different skills or knowledge or tools. And for us, in virtue of it being a digital platform, the entire world is our beneficiary. And we're not experts in just one thing. So this is why partnership is so important. It requires us to provide an array of courses, which also requires us to work with an array of people and experts. So we go from courses that look at the extractive industries to particular courses that look into the protection of the biodiversity of the Amazon, to food security. So I think at the SDG Academy, we're uniquely positioned to have the ability to work with the diversity of experts to create the curriculums and contents that you see here, and this is just very few of the courses that we have, and to bring it to students from all backgrounds to equip them with the necessary skills to tackle on issues required for that sustainable future. So this is just some of the lovely partners that we work with. Obviously, there's a lot more, but just to showcase a few that we work with for some of our courses. And I also want to take this time to delve into what it looks like to work with some of our partners, and I wanted to highlight Procurja's work. So Procurja and SDG Academy, we've worked for a really long time together throughout the years, and in this year alone, we've partnered with them, bringing our work together, whether that's bringing our president, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, was brought over to Jakarta in June this year to lead a building a sustainable future through lifelong learning and skill development that he lectured. And they were also a big partner for the ESD for 2030 regional meeting in July of this year. And also we highlight a lot of their work in SDG Academy in our library, in our courses. But the reason we work with experts like this is because they have years and years of expertise, which was already brought forth by by Kate. And so this is just some highlights of their work. Like I said, the reason we work very closely is because of their own expertise. Like Procurja provides an easy access to a skill development program to the Indonesian workforce, as mentioned before. And just like us, it's designed to be user-friendly and can be accessed web directly, where you don't need to download any application. And also, just like us, I think Procurja also values the importance of building an ecosystem. So they use the principle of multi-stakeholder partnership or public-private partnerships. And now they've provided more than 6,000 training programs, which I think is amazing, for more than 400 training providers, including universities, corporations, and job training centers. But I say all of this to just explain why we begin working with partners who have had years and years of expertise to bring together the content that we deliver, because our learners from all ages and wherever they're from deserve quality content when it comes to lifelong learning, and especially with accessibility. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dawn. That was extremely precise. But it really highlighted the role of knowledge generation in informing action. And it's looking at a very specific area of sustainability and sustainable development, and focusing on why it's so important for people to be aware and to inform our actions for social justice. So thank you. We're going to shift gears, and now we're going to move to Jody from the ILO, which is one of the premier multilateral institutional actor when it comes to skills development and lifelong learning. And it is from that institutional space that Jody is going to talk about ILO's role in agenda setting at the global level, at the region level, and also the accompanying standards. So Jody, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. And the standards were set very high by the previous speaker. We have less than 15 minutes, so I'll try to do my best to stay within 15 minutes. So let's see my time management skills, which are critical on the future of work and lifelong learning. So I will try to just walk you through what is the ILO quickly. What are the key challenges that we face in Asia and the Pacific in terms of what we call decent work deficits? What is the strategic approach of the ILO and what we are working on, and we expect all of us together, to work on now and in the future. Then I will zoom in into the role of technical and vocational education and training, which is an area which we believe is critical for improving lifelong learning systems. And last but not least, I will provide one slide on a framework and toolkit that we have developed and we are piloting as we speak to support our constituents across 36 countries in Asia and the Pacific to assess and improve their national lifelong learning systems. Before going to the first slide, let me just share quickly my name. I was advised to make an introduction of myself. My name is Jordi. I'm the technical specialist on skills and future of work at the ILO Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, based here in Bangkok. As I said, I will start with an introduction of the ILO. I assume most of you are very much aware of the work we do and what's the ILO and who we are within the UN system. And I see a lot of familiar faces from UNICEF, from UNESCO, from et cetera, a number of UN agencies and my dear colleagues at the UN system. But the ILO, as you can see here, is the UN agency for the world of work and the only tripartite UN agency. We have more than 100 years. We were founded in 1919, so we are over 100 years old. As you can see, we cover 36 countries, which are member states of the ILO here in the region, and we base our approach in a tripartite manner in which governments, representative of workers, and employers work together. The decent work agenda is the last one. I will go quickly. This is the second and last slide about the ILO, the skills branch, which is the branch I belong to within the ILO, and the branch that is working on the topics around skills and lifelong learning. So there are a number of areas that you can see here on the screen that the branch is working on from not just Bangkok, but also in the different continents. I will not touch upon those because you can see this on the screen. I would like to go into the following slides, which I think are the important ones. What are the key challenges we face here in Asia and the Pacific? And there are many more, so I decided to name just a few for you to bring your attention to areas in which all of us we should work on. They may be directly or indirectly connected with lifelong learning. So the first one is the poverty rate levels, or extreme poverty, 80 million people according to our data. The second one is 66% of individuals, so this is 2 out of 3 individuals are in informal employment. And as you know very well, in Asia and the Pacific, informal employment, like elsewhere, is typically characterized by severe decent work deficits in which there are higher poverty rates and lack of access to social protection. The third one is 1 out of 4 youth are not in education, employment, or training, and these young people are deprived of the possibility to acquire skills through either formal education or on-the-job training that are critical for their career development prospects. The fourth one, we still have millions of child laborers, and this has an impact on their possibility for them to access formal education and lately or subsequently the labor market, and then gender inequalities, which I think were mentioned yesterday. And as you can see here, 2.1 times more women are out of the labor market than men. What are the future prospects? A number of global forces transforming the world of work here and elsewhere, but I named a few. Globalization, but in particular I want to kind of emphasize on the technological changes that are impacting the world of work, and automation, which, as we used to say, is replacing workers, but also requiring a new set of skills. Demographic shifts, and this region is very particular because we have a young dividend, but also we have an aging society, like in the case of Thailand. Climate change as the last one, and the need for green skills, which I would like to connect with. This will continue disrupting the world of work and the need for a different set of skills across economies, countries, and sectors. And then in the next 20 years, I just want to mention the need of having a robust or effective technical and vocational education and training due to the need of more graduates entering TVET in the future. So this is our data. Just shortly, what is our approach to the issues that I have mentioned? And I will go shortly because there are many areas, and I decided to take notes on my way to the meeting this morning, and to be able to highlight some of the elements. Before going there, this is the statement of our Director General, and I think all of us at the ILO, and particularly those working on skills development and lifelong learning, we strongly believe in what's on the screen right now, and this is at the center of our mandate, and this is at the center of our work. These are the five pillars of our strategy that we are working with our constituents, with governments, representative of employers and workers, as well as civil society at large. So the first one is improve policies, governance, and financing. We believe it's necessary to develop evidence-based lifelong learning or skills and lifelong learning policies, but this is not just enough. Also, it requires a set of policies accompanying the lifelong learning policies, industrial, economic, social policies. So it's not just skills and lifelong learning policies, but it's also a wide set of different policies. The second one is all we do, and we believe it's a way forward, should be anchored in a social dialogue. So we need to bring the social partners, representative of employers and workers, to work together with us and with governments to ensure that policies are informed by them. And this requires, of course, a new set of governance. And last but not least, the financing mechanisms. Financing mechanisms for individuals, financing mechanisms for training providers, and financing mechanisms for enterprises to facilitate access to learning and skills development. The second one is the skill, what we call skills needs intelligence. And here what we do is to develop systems of identification of current and future skills needs, which are based on social dialogue and labor market information. This is critical. So it's not just being informed by social dialogue, but also by reliable labor market information that we have to capture. And also develop mechanisms for identification of mismatches between skills and jobs and people's aspirations. Those are important things, I think, to mention. And last but not least, sector-specific skills needs assessment. So we are able to respond to skills development needs at the sectoral level, which are contributing to industrial transformation and decent work. The third pillar is innovative and flexible learning pathways. And here I would like to highlight something that the first speaker this morning summarized from yesterday, the need to provide core skills or soft skills to those entering the workforce, but also the rest of the workforce transitioning, which are critical for entering and transition. So core skills. The second one is the digital transformation and digitizing training programs to reduce the digital divide. And last but not least, developing the capacities of teachers, instructors, and assessors, which is critical. The fourth pillar, just quickly, inclusive access and participation in skills development and lifelong learning to tackle inequalities and facilitate transition to formality. And this is something I mentioned before. And then gender-responsive training programs. And last but not least, because I'm running out of time and I'm still in this slide, on pillar number 5, quality apprenticeship to improve. This sounds very weird, right? Quality apprenticeship to improve the employability of learners, but also the productivity of enterprises. And this is, for us, a pillar of our work, and we have a new recommendation which was adopted last year on quality apprenticeship. What are the skills and TVET, skills and TVET system, and what is the TVET system relevance? Here, a number of elements that I would like to bring your attention to. Just to make sure that we kind of zoom in together into the role of the TVET system, which forms an important part of the lifelong learning provision, the way it contributes to lifelong learning policies through reskilling, upskilling, and skilling, and not only this, but more. And also the correlation between the proportion, of TVET students at the post-secondary and per capita income. The higher the number of TVET students at the post-secondary level, the higher the per capita income. And last but not least, obviously the TVET is critical, and I will emphasize critical, to support broader societal goals, particularly on social inclusion. TVET contribution to employment and productivity, just 3 main points. Increased productivity, as I think all of us, we are aware, technical skills, which are the focus of TVET-related programs, are associated with higher productivity at the worker and enterprise level. The second one, the TVET system plays a critical role in ensuring equitable growth, because most of those accessing the TVET system come from disadvantaged households.
And the third, enhance employability due to the unique focus on work-related skills. Going quickly, the ILO approach on supporting the improvement of the TVET system across Asia and the Pacific, and we have multiple examples which I cannot touch upon, so has 4 main areas of work: improving access to and participation in the TVET system, broadening access for those vulnerable groups. We can think of youth, we can think of indigenous people, people with disabilities, rural communities, etc. The second is about quality. So we start working at the competency standards level. We go down to the qualifications, curricula, and teachers, instructors' capacities. The relevance of the TVET system. But here the relevance not to address just decent work deficits, the relevance of the TVET system to respond to labor market needs, to the skills needs at the sectoral level. And this is critical and connected with what I said before, and that requires governance mechanisms which we promote in the region through sectoral skills bodies, in which the industry can join the policy discussions along with government and other stakeholders in each of the countries to inform the development of training programs. And last but not least, the financing mechanisms that require public-private collaboration. TVET in general, in my experience in the region, and I've been here for a number of years, is underfunded. But also we cannot think that just governments will be the only ones funding TVET. So it requires public-private collaboration. So, and my last slide is about the analytical framework and toolkit for the review of lifelong learning systems. I thought it was important to provide with this tool to at least raise awareness about the tool that we have developed and we are piloting as we speak. It's just one slide, I promise you. And here there are some highlights of our framework, which provides policymakers with frameworks, models, as well as the toolkit to design, assess, and enhance national lifelong learning systems. We have designed 3 different models reflecting on a lot of different lifelong learning systems over the world, both from developed and developing countries. And we have named those as core, augmented, and expansive model for countries to reflect, for policymakers to reflect on the status of their lifelong learning policies and system, and then think of potential ways for improvement without labeling those countries between the different models that they can reflect upon and create a profile and a way forward for improvement. And then the last point is that the toolkit is aiming to provide a methodology, but also the necessary knowledge and frameworks for policymakers to be able to approach a very complex issue, and most importantly, a very complex system in which there are many different elements that require a kind of a different approach across countries in Asia and the Pacific. That's my last slide, and I think the standards were set very high. I've been running through the slides. I hope I made myself understood, and I'm willing to respond to any question if you have after the presentation. And thanks again for having me in particular and my organization in this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordi. You did great. You still managed to spare 30 seconds. Thank you very much for a wonderful and a very precise introduction to ILO and its systems approach and a deeper dive into TVET. TVET was also discussed yesterday, and it is one strong pillar of delivering lifelong learning. So thank you for re-emphasizing and reiterating that. Now we're going to make another shift. So the first 2 presentations looked at institutional actors which had a global outreach. One focused on knowledge networks, other is more about system strengthening, working with government, employers, and workers, coming together for a lifelong learning. Now we move to the country level, and we're looking at civil society actors, often the intermediary actors between creating the public demand as well as the government services. And here, first, I would like to invite Jose from Timor-Leste to talk about the youth-led initiative in the country. So, Jose, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jose De Jesus, the National Coordinator for Civil Society Education Partnership, which is an education coalition membership based in Timor-Leste, and I also the co-initiator of the Marginalized Youth Forum, which is the marginalized youth platform based in Timor-Leste, and the Executive Council member of Asia South Pacific Association for Basic and Adult Education, or ASBE, is the regional education coalition in Asia and Pacific. Now I present on the civil society organizations' support to the marginalized youth in Timor-Leste. Yeah. I introduced Civil Society Education Partnership, which is education coalition established in 2017 by the 17 civil society organizations that works on education sector, especially focusing on non-formal education, advocacy, research, and monitoring on membership capacity building for sustainable and strong education coalition in Timor-Leste. This is the civil society education coalition that influencing the key decision makers in the country levels to improve the education policy, financing, and programs for ensuring the quality education in the country. CSCP established in 2017 to influence the national, regional, and global advocacy spaces, such as the local education group and the SDG working group, ASEAN People Forum, Asia Pacific Meeting on Education 2030, and Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, and other CSO forums that exist in Asia and Pacific, including the in Timor-Leste. So all this education forum we occupied to raise the civil society voices for the right to education, employment, and other relevant issues in the country. CSCP also has 15 organizations that work on advocacy, providing non-formal education training for children, youth, and adults, such as language, livelihood, climate change, and entrepreneurship, or ICT skills to CSCP members for the youth and adults. So these 15 organizations are actively engaged and working on education sector, which including the Marginalized Youth Forum that established in 2020 based on the youth-led action research that we completed in partnership with ASBE in Timor-Leste. So based on this research, we established this Marginalized Youth Forum to support and empowering the marginalized youth members in that based in the grassroots level. So the ER project research initiative led by the youth and aims to build the capacity of young people, including marginalized youth, to identify their needs and supports. So through this marginalized youth forum that we engage them to raise their voices directly to the key decision makers and government and local municipality administrators so that they present the voice out on their behalf what they need, especially on the right to access to education and employment. Yeah. CSCP and the ASBE initiative to the youth-led action research in 2019, we support and invite the marginalized youth members from the grassroots level to come to the training that we offer to empowering their capacity so that they can have skills to influence their advocacy skills and their leadership skills so that they can have the capacity to influence the local administrators and the local authorities where they are living in. The YEAR project target marginalized youth, including people with disability, early marriage youth, families, LGBT, grassroots community living in the rural areas. So these young people, they receive the capacity building training from us, and then we support them to conduct the research to identify the need of marginalized youth in the village where they live, especially in the very remote areas. So they interview those marginalized youth, especially girls affected by the poor, and they not access to the education, and they have limited access to the information and employment. So the establishment of Marginalized Youth Forum in 2021, we also, as an education coalition, we also promoted their platform to the ministry and local administrators and other stakeholders to introduce their existence as a marginalized youth platform so that they can be well recognized by these authorities. And the establishment of Marginalized Youth Forum, we select the representatives from the marginalized youth members from the grassroots level to occupy the leadership in the Marginalized Youth Forum so that they can lead this forum to advocate for the right to access to quality education and employment. Yeah, so this is the advocacy policy change were made through the research, evidence gathering, and public campaign, face-to-face meetings that we promoted to the minister, especially Minister of Education, Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, municipality administrators, and chief of village youth centers. We promote their existence to all these stakeholders so that their existence are well recognized and engaged locally so that they can participate regularly in the local level initiative and the engagement that these young marginalized youth forum members advocate for. So we introduced them to the Ministry of Education, especially to the Secretary of State for Youth and Sport, Vocational Training and Employment, Minister of Youth and Sport, Vice Minister of Education, and the youth center managers so that these young, marginalized young people can have the opportunity to involve in various training and capacity building so that they can have basic skills to access to the decent work and local employment opportunities. Apart from the promoting their existence, we also link with our members, civil society organizations members that exist in all the municipality and grassroots level, especially to participate in the capacity building training that the civil society organizations has in the local level, especially in our organizations that we support. They also involve the marginalized young farmers to attend the capacity building on horticulture, climate change, and other capacity building that each organizations implement in the grassroots level. Here in this photo, one of our organization training center in the grassroots level that involved the marginalized youth and the farmers in the production of compost and horticultural activities so that they can have initiatives to work and strengthening their capacities on the agriculture sector. These are the marginalized youth forum members who have been succeed in the various opportunities, and they have access to the local business opportunities. And one of them are master of ceremony, expert in the master of ceremony after they receive the leadership capacity building that we support. And some of them become the training facilitators in the local training centers that exist in their village, field officers and youth center staff. And some of them were selected in the organizations that we support, the 15 civil society organizations that part of our members. So they recruit these marginalized youth who have capacities on the various areas, the volunteers, and some of them municipality administrator staff, and some of them establish their own groups or youth group and NGO, establish nurseries, horticulture, and animal husbandry. So all these opportunities that they have been succeed, and some of them they initiate to produce the mushroom for their own, and then they sell it to the market. And that's the successful that we achieved in our after we established the Marginalized Youth Forum in 2021. So the lessons learned from this platform is the active participation in all activities that the municipality and the national level establish. And Marginalized Youth Forum reputation is also improved within the civil society and public advocacy influence because of they have power in speaking on their behalf and influencing their advocacy in various levels like local education group and high-level political forum, Asia Pacific for Sustainable Development. So their voices are being heard in all these forums in the regional and municipality and the national level. The spirit of voluntarism, they don't have any money, any cash receiving in participating in all these activities. So they are voluntary person that wanted to really promoting their basic skills and capacities to have in their own life. The recommendation that they support and invest locally, and their voice has been heard in the locally, whatever recommendation they submit to the municipality authorities and the government, and all these recommendations are considered in the national government and the municipality level. Obrigado. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jose, for giving us a flavor of the work that you're doing in Timor-Leste with the youth. From Jose, now we'll move to Renu, who will speak to local stakeholders and partnerships when it comes to, I guess, meeting the aspirations of young women in India in terms of their lifelong learning goals. So, Renu, over to you.
Namaste, good morning to everyone. I already see connections of ILO, UNSDNG, and Timor-Leste. They say how if they work together, how much it will help. Because all that Jordi spoke about and Don spoke about, definitely you can see, yes, it would help. I'll carry on to tell you about where I come from. I'm Renu Seth, and I'm part of an organization called Pratham Education Foundation in India. Works in about 23 states of India. And we work with a range of children, years. So starting even earlier than 3 years, 0 to 6 months also we have for children after birth. And from 3 to 8 years, or 3 to 14 years, that is the elementary section. We work with the youth, and we also work with women, girls and women. So it's been about 20 years for me now at Pratham. Pratham will be 30 years next year. It's been about more than 12 years for me that I am with the girls and women and with adult learning. I'll start with a story about this lady over here. She's from the state of Maharashtra in India. And she, a widow living with her children. And she couldn't complete her grade 10. She couldn't pass some exams. And she, for essential needs, she had to start working, so she became a health worker in her village. She always felt the pinch because the other women in the province had completed their high school diploma. But she did not have that. And she felt really, really strongly or small about it. When she came to know about the program that offers her to complete her class 10, she was very happy. So she's part of a self-help group. We know that women livelihoods, every country now has national livelihood mission and even state livelihood mission. So she was part of that. The district government and the organization worked together for giving 17,000 women in that district who, it's still going on, who wanted to complete their grade 10. As part of that, 600, she passed in 2024. I met her in January 24, and she had to say, where were you 10 years, 12 years back? Don't you think I would have done so much better if you came to me then? I just give you a glimpse of her, not a glimpse, or just to hear her voice of what she says, that let's make more women educated. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if the audio plays, but that's fine. She sings in her ways, let's get going and let women get educated. She says, I have to go to the next village, but I can't read the board. I don't know how to do my daily accounting. And that makes me feel small. That's part of the song. So it's so much more for anybody who has not had the access to education to be able to do these things and have their own self-esteem. So the problem, as we say, we've seen that, yes, women are not able to work for various reasons, and they have not had access to education. This is the reason that why girls and women still have not completed. You see them, primary is pretty good, but you are not able to see that in secondary and higher secondary education, and that's where we need to work. We also saw that women are lesser. The annual status of education report, a study conducted almost every year, this one is with Beyond Basics, 14 to 18-year-olds, showed the difference between women and men, that young girls knew the mobile phone, they have access, but they were much less informed on many areas, important areas of banking, of seeking information. And we've seen that primary education, we've got it, high enrollment, but we see the part to note is that even if they've completed 8 years of education, they're not still able to read. About 1/3 of class 8 students are not able to read the class 2 text or able to do their division problems. That is an area, even if there's access later, what are some things we need to keep in mind? Who better than Jordi would be able to say this? I will not dwell here, but India has a lot to do for women and women to be in the labor force. Our numbers are low. We are 165th in the world, and we need to, there's a lot needs to be done. Why? That's why working with women, even if they've gone past their the prime age, what you may say 21 to 30. But even when they're coming up at 30 and wanting to study, they're ready to work. They've fulfilled their household responsibilities, and now they're ready to do things. So the Second Chance program, which is Pratham's program for over 15-year-old, the Second Chance program offers a 1-year-long program to girls and women to complete their high school diploma. It starts with the foundation course, understanding the long gap that the girls may have or women may have in completing their class, in their study. So, and it also has academic and non-academic paths, which helps them generally grow in more areas than only academics. The general principle is that learning for school, learning for work, and learning for life, they need to be ready. And yeah, so we believe that having this education given to them opens up gates for them and they can take things ahead in life. Who are the people who come to us? You can see the age groups given over here and also the various classes they have dropped out from. Now with the right to education in place in 2010, we see that most of them are definitely, they have completed grade 8. It's a great thing. But to think that grade 8, but what do they know? 8 years in school and still not being able to do some basics is a little bit worrisome. So that is why the foundation course, a bridging, which helps them go ahead. This is about of 11,000 women who are enrolled in this year's program. And it is not a representation of India, but it's a representation of the numbers that have come into this year's program at Pratham. What are the reasons that they are not coming? You can see it, sorry. The reasons, you will see family constraints, you'll see financial constraints, you will also see that they've not been able to pass class 9. So up to class 8, it is you can get promoted. There's no policy of detention. But after 9, they find it difficult to cope up with the syllabus. And that's when they fall off. There's lack of interest and they fall off. And that is where you will see that it's over the years, it has increased that they've not been able to cope up with their studies and so they had dropped out of school. Of course, the other reasons are there. Who are our stakeholders? Our stakeholders, you cannot do such a program on your own. The National Institute of Open Schooling, just like Min talked to us about Nile, in Korea, we have the National Institute of Open Schooling in India, which offers grade 10 and 12 as an open schooling. A very strong body, and its mandate is to have it in every state as well. Their presence, they have it in their mandate to reach the unreached, but it doesn't really happen. There's no awareness about it. So engaging with them brings the collaboration on. We have local self-government. The district, which we talked of the stakeholders that Vanita, the lady in the first slide, was shown to you. So all of these are the people, and the names listed over here. Digital content, all of this helps us, digital content providers, teachers, high schools, even though we are working with those who are dropouts, but the high schools and teachers, when they know of what we are doing, and when they see the girls who pass out coming back to their same school, doing well, there's a respect. And then you have their buy-in, and they are more supportive to what you are doing. So I have said, along with that, the teachers also teach. When we talk of the stakeholders, we also talk of beyond class 10, so future pathways. Where will they go? Do they want to study? If they are young women with little children, they may not want to go far for a job. So they need local livelihood. So who are the organizations that are working on these areas? All of them become your stakeholders. The more they know, so if you are working with an organization like maybe Pradhan in India, they are working on livelihood and you are working on education. Sometimes it becomes a win-win situation to partner. So stakeholders and working closely with them is very important. Again, a little bit more depiction of the stakeholders. So the systems exist. We know ILO is doing so much. There's the whole world recognizes it. It's so great for us to know that we are having a conference on equitable education and co-creating for those who miss the bus, for those who still want to study, for those who probably are not going to go back to school, but and all that we are hearing in the past 3 days is online access, easy access, building your skills is all for that. So to have a conference and be part of a conference that is talking about this was the biggest happiness for me when I came here. So the provisions exist, they just need to be activated. They just need to be, enlivened once again. And the stakeholders, it's important to identify them right at the beginning so that they become partners with you as the program. They see the challenges you face rather than going to them when you need them. Take them on through. Keep reporting to them. Depending on who they are, you can have your engagement with them. Do you want to give somebody a monthly update of what is happening? Do you want to give somebody a very regular update, the school maybe? And that helps, the program to go stronger and the ownership to stay with the community. And maybe later sometime we will see that the high school says, okay, I'll become the re-engagement center. Let anyone who comes here, because the systems are there. But maybe they will have to do the extra part, or maybe Pratham or anybody locally can support of having the bridge course. Because getting the admissions done is one thing, but some support, whether through online or in-person systems, would make a big difference. I stop here and I'm happy to talk more. Thank you.
Thank you, Renu, for the wonderful presentation on how you've activated the local partnerships to achieve your objectives. And I think I'm just going to say one thing before I go into the Q&A, because we've already received some questions online, is that it's extremely hard to talk about stakeholders without talking about partnerships, because they don't exist. They're not discrete, and they don't exist in a vacuum. And it's partnerships which invest, stakeholders with that aspiration, ambition, objective, all of it. I'm going to go to the Q&A. We've received a series of questions, and some of them are targeted, and some of them are for all the panelists. I'll start with the targeted ones. So the first comes to Dawn for the SDG Academy. So let me articulate it. Sustainable development should be integrated in learning throughout the life cycle. Does the Academy also work on the content for young children, that is at the basic education level?
Hello? Okay. I think that's a great question. And very simple answer is that we're not there yet, actually, because we're working with professors, across the institutions whose main learners have been bachelor students or undergraduate students. So no, we have not, unfortunately, but I do think we have to start sustainable development young. That is a skill that needs to be, instilled at a young age. So no, not yet.
All right, thank you. For Timur, Jose, there's a question that at the beginning, when your network was just established and was not well known as yet, how did you motivate young people to join and volunteer?
Yeah, through the interlinkages that we made through our education coalition, civil society education partnership. So we brought them to introduce their existence to the government, civil society organizations, and the companies, private sectors, and the academy. So we brought them, lead them their platform so that they can directly speak to those stakeholders and partners so that they can be well recognized. And also we promote their existence and their advocacy activities through media, local media and national, like TVs and our social media. So their existence were recognized until now.
Okay, thank you. So now I have two questions for each of the panelists. So let me start by, okay. For those, when you offer training and content, how difficult is it to develop the content? Because since experts in the field might have knowledge, but may not have the ability to communicate and transfer knowledge, how do you overcome that barrier? How do you contextualize it for your audience? Renu, do you want to start from that end and work
Thank
away?
you, Aarti. Uh,
It's working.
Yeah, yeah, sorry for that. So the question that Aarti is asked is for the second part of the program, that is after they complete the exams. So yes, we have a series of things that happen throughout the program. That is what we say, what after class 10? What do you want to do after class 10? So you're sort of building that, and you also have a sense of what they want to do. Accordingly, whether it's education, so you take them to the school and ensure that some high schools will be admitting them with their documentation. And for vocational and courses, first you identify what are the courses available in their neighborhood, in that neighborhood. What is the opportunity for them? Then you talk to them about these courses and identify someone who can offer it to them in their vicinity, how far it is. Women have always found access very difficult. If they do not know how to ride a scooty or a two-wheeler, they will probably not go beyond 8 to 10 kilometers if there is no bus. So localization is very important. So having people, we also have started something which we call community camps, training camps. So we organize the training for 30 days. We just completed a 30-day electrical training camp for women, which allows them to, then get a job. They get placed in a factory as well. But having it there, having the community also see that, oh, my daughter could do this, makes a big difference, opens up the aspiration for others, and that's our starting point, as we could say so. Yeah.
Thank you. Jose, do you want to?
For me, I developed few training manuals on ICT and small business and language, English language, which is very difficult for us was the language itself, because in Timor-Leste we use Portuguese and Tetun is the official language, but in daily communication we use Tetun and Indonesian, Bahasa Indonesia, but in schools using Portuguese. So all these complicated languages are difficult for us. When we develop the training manual with Tetun, but the results, all the results are from English and Bahasa Indonesia. And when we teach with Tetun, we have to explain it with basic bahasa so that they can basically understand, because of their education background still low, and when we use the high level terms, might difficult for them to get understand.
Jody, do you want to weigh in from the ILO perspective?
Thank you, Zardi. Thank you. That's a very good question. From a systems perspective, and not just from the point of view of the ILO, I think all of those present here in the room and online today, I think there are three different areas of work, and I mentioned shortly in my presentation. The way we see it, the first one is we have to be able together to identify what are the skills needs in the labor market, and skills need at a sectoral level. Healthcare sector requires a set of skills which is different from retail and construction, and I can think of many different sectors. So identifying skills needs is critical, and how occupations are evolving, what tasks are changing, and what competencies are required. This, I would say, requires work with employers, and employees should be part of the conversation along with workers, cannot be just government or UN agencies alone. That's the first area of work. As soon as we have data which is informed by social dialogue and labor market information, as I said before, we have to adapt the supply. The supply that may come not just from the TVET system that I mentioned before, but from any form of education. So qualifications and curricula has to be quickly adapted to respond to those rapidly changing needs of skills.
And this obviously requires flexibility and a different approach compared to the one that we see in many countries in the region. That's the second element. And the third and last but not least is the capacities of instructors, teachers, assessors, etc. So you mentioned before a learner-centered approach. We do agree and we support this approach. We believe that the professor-centric is not valid anymore, but it's not just a learner-centered approach. It requires collaboration with the private sector, with the industry, to ensure that those instructors, as well as the students, are well aware of the technology that is being adopted in the industry. So they have to be well aware of the changes that are happening in the different industries, occupations, etc. So they are able to apply the skills acquired or adopt the skills acquired in the formal education or non-formal. Those will be the three elements, and the ones that from a systems perspective, I think all of us, we should work on, and each one of them has its own subgroups and areas in which we could work. I stop here, and I hope I responded to the question.
Thank you.
Dawn.
Yeah, when it comes to working with experts, when it comes to content development, immediately when I heard that question, I was just flashbacks of all the discussions I've had. Because for us in SDG Academy, one course can take up to 1 year to build, and that is because it's a reiterative process of going through that content. Now, we're lucky if we're working with one expert, but if you're in a room with 12 of them where they're bringing their life's work into the room, it's really hard to bring that back together, and that was one of the challenges that we face. But because we've done it so many times, I think what we always center ourselves on in the discussions is what is the learner's objective at the end of the day. Because at SDG Academy and most courses, your audience is the public. These are people who might not know this content at all. So yes, you're an expert and you might believe that they have a foundational understanding of whatever the topic is, but there we are to remind them as consultants is that they might not have that foundational knowledge of that topic. So we really have to start from scratch and then bring them back to that learner's objective. And that's how we get through that problem.
Thank you, Dawn. So clearly, there's no blueprint. One has to just negotiate and navigate one's way. I have one final question, and I've saved the best for the last. And so please do give it a think, and I'm sure the audience is also going to be very interested in the response to the question. There are several stakeholders who are working towards the same goal in lifelong learning. What is your strategy to avoid duplication of work with other stakeholders? Do you want to reverse the order? Dawn, do you want to start?
I had a feeling this question was going to come up. Because when it comes to online learning, there are a million platforms and there are a million courses. Even if you go on Google and you type up, a course on agriculture, you're going to find hundreds and thousands of courses on it. So something I do think about when I first started this job was, how do we not saturate the online courses or even just the digital platform? Because there's so many. Something that I think we've been more kind of with meaningful engagement when it comes to courses and when we receive a proposal to do a course. I think the first thing we ask ourselves in our team is, does this course already exist? That's number one. And if that course does exist, what is the traction for that course? Do they have hundreds of learners? And is it more actually about visibility than it is about creating an entire new course? So sometimes we, unfortunately, have to reject proposals for these courses because there is something that already exists out there. And can we instead use our platform, instead of creating a new course, to kind of bring the learners that we already have into these separate courses? So even on our course website, you'll see that we have a partner course page, and that's just bringing learners there. And that's how I think we try to not saturate the market with this. But yeah, that's my simple answer.
Okay, I'll try to, and it's a very, very good question and a very challenging to respond. I'll pick from where Dawn left. I think the first question is, does the need exist? And we have to be very careful in assessing the need. in our side as ILO, but in the side of any of the organizations represented here today. The second question is, who is serving that need, if anybody, right? And if there is any organization already working, serving that specific need, we should be able to approach. And it requires ourselves, our own will, to approach that organization or that number of people working on it. And the third element, it's not just the good intentions and the good faith of all of us, which we have a responsibility. Myself, I do have that responsibility, and I think all we share. We have to create institutional arrangements and mechanisms of governance to ensure that there is dialogue around the needs, around the joint or collective solutions that we offer, and then we also assess together whether we are overlapping or not, and what part of the kind of the chain is being covered by the different organizations. So I think it is critical in the long term to be successful, to have well-functioning institutional arrangements and governance mechanisms in which everybody participates. And from our side, from the ILO, we strongly believe, and it's our mandate, to bring not just government, employers and workers, but also to bring the civil society, youth organizations, etc. Those that usually don't have a voice in the spaces where we are and where we formulate and implement policies. So that would be my take to your question.
In our case, duplication to the other, to the different participants and the beneficiaries are important, because we in Timor-Leste, we have very few or limited training center exist, especially in the rural areas. So we need to support other institutions, especially the non-formal education providers and TVET providers, to exist in different municipalities, so that to ensure the accessibilities for those marginalized youth to have the opportunity for learning purpose. So the public-private partnership is important for, in this case, to prevent the duplication in the same place to the same people. So we have the civil society government dialogue annually that happen in the country, which lead by the Office of Prime Minister, to discuss and dialogue all these activities that held in the different places. So with this, we can prevent the duplications, but for duplications in the different places need to be strengthened.
Yeah, I'll take this one last. I'd like to say premise one, if there is a course and it fits in, no duplication. That's number one. Number two is we've been saying it since all of yesterday, we are learner-centered. Who are your learners? Who are they? I mean, there's one generally going to school, there's one who is not aware of many things. If there is a simple thing like they don't even know what their identity cards of their documents need to be to avail of government schemes and entitlements. So if there is something you have to create because of that, please do, we should do that. And maybe that will be useful for so many more. So be aware and avoid duplication, see what works. In India, there's another challenge that we probably need to do it in about 11 or 12 languages. So we need to translate. So keeping all those things in mind, are you reaching your learners? Are they getting what you really set out to do? I think that's what I would like to say.
Thank you so much. I've been remiss in just focusing on the online questions for the moment. So I want to ask the audience in the room whether there is a question anybody would like to ask and engage. Yes, please. If it's a common question, please present it to the panel. If it's directed, please identify.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Danny, Executive Director of PMO Prakerja. My question is for Jordan. So how does ILO ensure that the toolkit or methodology to build the toolkit is actually inclusive, meaning that it is actually relevant and not biased toward particular countries, like for example, developed countries, but it is inclusive for all the context of countries that actually ILO work with? Thank you.
Yeah, that's again a very challenging question and a good question. Depends on what the toolkit what type of toolkit we think of. But I think in any of the work that we do, it is critical. And I think most of my UN colleagues would agree on that. It is critical to not just bring good practices and lessons learned from developed countries, which we can think of, those that come to our minds, but it is also very important to bring good practices and lessons learned from developing countries in the South in particular. So those spaces for knowledge sharing and reflection to connect with the good practices elsewhere can be your neighboring country here in ASEAN, or could be any other country that comes from a different continent in the South. I think that would be the first and I think the most important element. The second one is that in the process of designing, you have to be not just driven by the mandate and the goals of your organization and the way you see that particular issue or number of issues. So you have to meet a number of stakeholders, and I cannot name all of those. I mentioned a few in my previous interventions, but I think it's our responsibility to have to lead the exercise of collecting information and sharing, or at least being able to receive inputs from others. As soon as we have something, and I'm simplifying the process, something as a draft, this has to be validated. It cannot be validated in the ILO office or in any of the UN agencies' offices. It has to be validated in a forum in which people like all of you are part of it, and you have a voice, and then we do our best to assess whether this could be a good fit. Third, you should pilot, you should test, and then see if it works, and afterwards come back home or to the office and fine-tune it, and evaluate what has worked, what didn't work, and what you can change. I'm simplifying a very complex kind of process, and it depends on the type of toolkit that we look at. But if I think of a response to the very good question, that would be kind of a simple pathway that I think it's critical we all follow.
Thank you, Jody. The same sentiment is also echoed in a question that has come online, and I'll read the question out, and if just one person would like to respond, because I know we're running out of time. So in your experience, and I think I'll target this to Jose and Renu because of the local implementation experience. In your experience, which is that one group which was always excluded? How did you become aware of it? And what did you do to integrate them into the conversation?
Okay, so when we started the work 12 years back, it was with young dropouts who, because we knew that retention in secondary school was not right and needed some more support. And we wanted those girls to get back to mainstream education. But as we started doing it, we got to know of those who were in some paramedical jobs or other jobs who were equally interested. The alumni become a big source of inspiration for the community around them. How much can you say through your mobilization? But the other women, one is coming just for their own self-esteem. So the older women are definitely coming, and we realize that. And how do we know it? Is by going house to house. Because you talk that is somebody who hasn't completed 10th, would they like to complete the 10th? And then there others would say, can't we also do it? Isn't there? That's how we first got to know. So we opened it up, and no upper age limit, and that's how we got more and more women coming. And we realized that that number is growing over the years. Yeah.
We use our platform, our education coalition members that based in different locations in the rural areas to focus those excluded groups that exist in the rural sub-village areas, so that these excluded people can have a support from the local municipality government that exists in that place. So we use our platform as a tool for engagement in the local level, so that they can be considered in their what they really want to have access to.
I
Thank
just want
you,
to say
Jose
one little thing.
Very brief.
The stakeholders sometimes, know what you're doing, and it's anecdotal, it's not our mainstream work, but we worked with a group of women who were trafficked and were rescued. And they all completed their education so it was a referred case, but about 40, 50 of them did that as well.
Thank you. I'm so glad that this is generating so much of interest. We have another question, yet another
Yes.
last question.
Yes.
Please, Joe.
Thank you very much, Jael from UNHCR here. Thank you very much for your presentations. My question goes to what is happening to those with disabilities? I haven't had it come out. Please, if you could talk about that. Thank you.
Who would like to take the answer?
I can say it, we are not doing it very intentionally and very consciously. We will. But whoever has come to us, we've never said no. And we've also, and that we have seen has encouraged more people to come to us the next year. So there is no element saying that we cannot cater to them. But we are not doing something very consciously that this is for you. I'll be honest about that.
Jordan?
Yeah,
Okay.
and yes, thanks to UNHCR colleague. This is a very good question. Again, I think many times we are unable to see those people because we don't have, when we design the programs, when we implement the programs, the disabilities are not clearly identified, and this is an issue in the design phase. I think all of us, we can do better. Designing programs which respond to the needs of people with disabilities, and those are particular vulnerable learners that we have to take care of in a different manner. In the ILO side, we have a team working within our organization, just developing solutions. You can name those as toolkits, different type of products to reach people with disabilities. But yeah, I think there is a different approach that has to be taken to ensure that those are identified and then solutions are being provided to them. Over.
Thank you so much. We've come to the end of our panel, the plenary panel today. I don't think I can even do justice in terms of distilling the lessons, but some very quick takeaways that come to my mind is, I think it's the nature of lifelong learning. It's such a vast conceptual field, also an operational and an actionable field. So by default, it's an occupational hazard. You will have diversity of stakeholders. And I think the question is that how do we leverage that diversity of stakeholders in working towards a common objective? And I think that's where partnerships, stakeholder engagement come in, and they can range from being, it's the invisible glue. They can range from being, institutional mechanisms. You have SDG 17, Partnership for Goals. It's clearly a means to achieve our objectives. So we can make it formal, we can make it informal, it can be visible, it can be invisible. So there are many manifestations, but what it needs to be, intentional, inclusive, and these are just based on the questions and the presentations, I'm saying that it can't be left to chance. We need to be reflective. We need to be aware that good intentions are not enough. We need to really act on it. And I think it's a microcosm of what this workshop is about. I mean, it might be just a panel sitting here, but I think it resonates with the discussions that were yesterday, and Kate also talked about collaboration on how we go forward. So, and thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience, both offline and online. Thank you. And thank you to the wonderful panel.
And thank you, Dr. Saiji, as well, for wonderful moderating the session. Please kindly have a group photo together to conclude the session. All the panelists, please, group photo. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's impressive, the way it's being presented and the way that all of our audiences, online and offline, trying to contribute to the success of this session. So that's what we hope for and aim for. I think we have achieved it very beautifully. So thank you very much for your participation. I guess we have around 10 minutes.